Acts 16 says, the crowd also joined in the attack against them, and the chief magistrates tore their robes off them and ordered that Paul and Silas be beaten with rods. I'm doing the Amplified Version. After striking them many times with rods, they threw them into prison, commanding the jailer to guard them securely. He having received such a strict command, threw them into the inner prison and fastened their feet in stocks in an agonizing position. The first century Roman prisons were nothing like our prisons today, although I know ours today aren't that great either. But they were dark, they were dank, they would chain them up in ways that would hurt them, and then they would chain them together to everybody else in the room. They had to, of course, defecate and have all of that right there. As bodies died, they would shove them to the side and only get them whenever it was convenient to get them. There was no sunlight, there was no windows, there was no ventilation. It was not a happy place. Do you ever feel that way? Do you ever feel like you are, you're in a situation that there's no way out, that you don't know what to do, that you can't turn around, you can't move, that it's like, God, what's going on? And yet in the midst of all of this, the church was on the move. They had already had the day of Pentecost. There was 3,000 souls that were already saved. Philip had already been translated in Star Trek style, right, to go teach a Bible study. Peter had received a vision in his call to the Gentiles and had spoken to Cornelius. Paul, who was now at that moment in prison, chained together with his buddy Silas in the midst of all of this, he was responding to a vision that God had given him to go to Macedonia and preach the gospel. So he's flying high. Yes, Lord, I'm going to do what you say. And he goes in and he preaches, and Lydia and her household are saved, and he casts a demon out of a slave girl, and her owners got mad because she was making them money for stuff. And so they have him cast into prison. And so what does Paul do? Acts 16:25 tells us, but at midnight, when Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns of praise to God, and the prisoners were listening to them, suddenly there was a great earthquake, so powerful that the very foundations of the prison were shaken. And at once, all the doors were opened and everyone's chains were unfastened. You see, Paul had learned the secret. He had figured out that the devil was just one of those little yappy dogs, like the chihuahuas, right? And so the little yappy dog comes up and goes, whatever, and Paul's like, get out of here. I know what I'm doing. And he praises God, and miracles happen. But so many times in our life, when the devil comes up, we treat him like he's a pit bull, right? Have you ever seen someone that's afraid of one of those little yappy dogs? They back up, and they back up, and they back up, and all their focus is on that dog. And all their energy and everything is on that little bitty dog doing this, right? And that's what we can do in our lives, is the enemy will try to convince us that we're in that dark, dank dungeon, and then he's got us locked and twisted, and we can't do anything. In reality, all we need to do is to praise God and to keep our focus on praising God. But I have found in my own life, as seasoned as I am sometimes, that when things start to happen, the first thing I do is I call my friend, sometimes Sister Betcher, and I'll tell her all about what I think is a pit bull that's really the Chihuahua. And I do everything else and take all my energy and focus on that instead of praising the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And the Lord has brought me here today to tell you that whatever the darkness, whatever the bondage, however miserable that it feels, that if you will prepare your heart and your mind and give God the glory, he will bring the victory, because he is the one in control. So I leave you with this. This is the Apostle Paul speaking in Philippians 4. I know how to get along and live humbly in difficult times. And I also know how to enjoy abundance and live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing life, whether well-fed or going hungry, whether having an abundance or being in need. I can do all things which he has called me to do through him who strengthens and empowers me.